Thank you, everyone. Please be seated, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. State, you may call your next witness.
The state would call Detective Loberg.
All right, good morning, Detective Loberg. If you would please make your way to the witness stand. When you get there, please remain standing. Raise your right hand. My clerk, Teresa, will swear you in. The first thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record and spell each.
Sure. First name is Timothy, Timothy. Last name Loberg, Loberg.
Thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
Thank you. Detective Loberg, how are you employed?
I'm a detective with the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department.
And how long have you been employed in that capacity?
12 years.
In total, what is your law enforcement experience?
Well, I started off in the patrol division, later moved on to a field training officer, and then went to the detective bureau.
To become a law enforcement officer and then detective, did you have to undergo training?
I did.
Could you please explain to the jury that training?
Sure. I went to the Milwaukee Area Technical College and attended an associate degree program, which at the time was referred to as Police Science Criminal Justice. Excuse me. Subsequent to that, I then attended a State of Wisconsin Law Enforcement Standards Board Academy, which then certified me to be a police officer in Wisconsin.
Did you have to undergo further training to become a detective?
I did.
Could you please explain that to the jury?
Sure. So then, after being in the patrol division, I then attended numerous specialty trainings as well as on-the-job training in order to obtain the skill set that's necessary in the detective role.
As part of being a detective, are you dispatched to death scenes?
Yes.
Over the course of your 12 years as being a detective, could you approximate how many times you've gone out to a death scene?
Best I could say is likely hundreds.
Okay. And what is the normal procedure as a detective for processing a death scene?
Typically, my responsibilities would be an overall observation of that scene, firstly, to try to attempt to understand or determine what exactly occurred with this death investigation. If there's anything obviously present as to what could likely be a cause of death, that would be considered evidence. And at that point, we would determine what items are of evidentiary value and typically collect those. Other responsibilities would be taking photographs of the scene and the overall area, as well as interviews and whatever is deemed necessary at that point.
All right. Were you on duty on October 3rd, 2018?
Yes.
On that date, were you dispatched to a death scene in the city of Pewaukee?
Yes.
Approximately what time did you arrive on scene?
I don't recall specifically.
Okay. So if it would have been afternoon, evening time, would that sound correct?
Yes, I worked second shift at that time.
Okay. What did you do when you got dispatched to that address?
The first thing I did was make contact with Deputy Rosenberger, and I gathered brief information as to what he knew at that time. Typically, meeting with that patrol officer, that's going to help determine what areas might need to be focused on or what priorities there may be at that particular time. I learned at that time that there were interviews being conducted, and so I then began just an overall observation of exactly what was going on at that scene.
All right. What did you do next then?
So then I walked around the exterior of the residence, first attempting to locate if there was any signs of forced entry or a struggle or anything that would be an obvious possible contributing factor or cause of death in this death investigation. I'm certainly not trained or qualified, to be clear, to determine a cause of death, but I'm just looking for something that may overall, any criminal element that may have played a part there. And so after walking around the exterior of the residence and not observing anything obvious, I then did the same walking around the interior of the residence and also photographing common areas of that residence as well as the decedent.
When you made contact with the decedent, was it clear that she had been deceased at that point?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay. And you said you had walked around the residence. Did you take pictures of the residence?
I did.
Okay. Did you review those pictures before court today?
I did.
Okay. We're going to put on the screen for you here shortly exhibits 23 through 32. And April's going to click through them. I just want you to review those to yourself, and then when you're done, let me know.
Okay.
Detective, did you have a chance to review all of the exhibit 23 through 32?
Yes.
And are those pictures that you took of the residents as well as the decedent?
Yes.
Are those true and accurate copies of those photos?
Yes.
Now, I believe Exhibit 29 has already been moved into evidence, but I'd be moving the remainder of 23 through 32 into evidence.
Any
No
objection? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Exhibits 23 through 32 are received, noting that 29 was received previously.
Before we get to showing the inside of the residence to the jury, can you just kind of describe the layout of the residence?
Sure. I recall it being a single floor condominium style layout, fairly open floor plan with a separate bedroom, bathroom, and an attached garage.
And we had talked about the deceased at that time, but did you ultimately identify her as Lynn Hernan?
Yes.
Okay. As part of your investigation and you going around the residence and then further taking photos, did you observe pill bottles in the residence?
I did.
As well as did you observe medications?
Correct.
Did you observe crushed medication as well?
Yes.
Okay. Did you observe any computers in the residence?
Not that I recall.
Would that be something that would have been noted either in your report or taken a picture of?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Do you recall if there were any pets in the residence?
I remember there was a cat.
Okay. And you said, if you had to guess, you've been to hundreds of death scenes over the course of your time as a law enforcement officer, correct?
Correct.
And have you been to scenes where it's been a presumed suicide?
Yes.
Okay. Based on your training and experience as a detective at these death scenes, have you ever observed a presumed suicide to have crushed pills on their chest?
No.
When you walked through the residence, did you go to the bedroom of the residence?
Yes.
Did you take any pictures of that?
No.
Why were there no photos taken of the bedroom?
Well, at the time, I guess, now certainly would have been nice to have more photos knowing what we know now, but at that time, having a presumed suicide and no apparent criminal element or violation of state statute that we observed, I did not see anything in the bedroom that appeared to be of evidentiary value. And so my focus at that point was the decedent and the immediate area around the decedent.
Thank you. Lots of thumbs up.
All right, Detective, in Exhibit 23, what are we looking at here?
That will be the main entrance or front, I guess you could call, of the residence, and the glass doorway on the left is the entry to Miss Hernan's residence.
On the left side of Exhibit 23, we see some officers.
Correct.
Can you describe what's going on there?
So they are conducting an interview of a party who they later identified to me as Jessy Kurcewski.
Okay. Can you just describe to the jury what it appears Ms. Kurcewski is actually wearing in that photo?
Looks like some sort of medical attire, or what's commonly referred to as scrubs.
After you took photos on the scene, what was your role in this investigation?
Once I confirmed that Mr. Kurcewski had already been interviewed and there was nobody else at that point that needed to be interviewed, I resumed my normal duties.
Okay. At some point after this date, October 3rd, 2018, did you have further role in this investigation regarding Lynn Hernan's death.
I did.
Ultimately, did you send subpoenas to financial institutions and other institutions in investigation?
I did.
Was that ultimately handed off to Detective Plennis in your same department?
Yes.
Okay. At some point in this investigation, is the reason why did the sheriff's department here start sending out those subpoenas?
There was information received. Well, firstly, there was a determination that this was not a suicide per the medical examiner. We were informed of that.
Okay. So this transition from a potential suicide to a homicide investigation.
Objection, lady.
Sustained as to the form of the question. Please rephrase.
So the information that you received from the medical examiner,
Objection, that's asking for hearsay now.
Well, let him get the question out, so overrule.
you received information from the medical examiner. Did that cause the sheriff's office to change their investigation?
Objection, lack of foundation.
Overrule.
Yes.
Okay. And what did that investigation turn into?
A homicide investigation.
Thank you, Detective. I don't have any other questions.
Cross.
Thank you, Judge. Detective, thank you for being here. This happened about 5 years ago, correct?
Yes, sir.
I mean, your memory's not great, would you say?
Sometimes.
Well, I mean, you met with the prosecutors here, correct? Sitting here to my left to review your testimony.
Yes.
They showed you exhibits, correct?
Yes.
They showed you your police reports.
Yes.
Other than that, you have no memory of this?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, it's a very unique case.
And why is that?
Because firstly, I have not been to a suicide that, well, I should say I haven't been to what was ruled as a homicide that first appeared to be the way that it did at that scene.
So when you first got on the scene, it just appeared to be a suicide, correct?
It did.
And you didn't have any second thoughts about that when you got on the scene, correct?
No.
And you indicated that you have responded to hundreds of deaths, correct?
I would estimate that.
So there's a lot of crime in Waukesha, is that what you're saying?
No.
How many of those were criminal?
It would be hard for me to say. I mean, there was a portion of time as my duties as a detective where I, for example, did assisted with crash investigations, which ultimately were fatal crashes and whatnot. So they weren't all criminal.
Well, as of 2018, how many were criminal?
I couldn't say.
Less than 5?
I would literally have to speculate, sir. I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not.
I don't want you to do that.
I apologize. I'm not. I'm not certain. I'm really not.
So not enough that you can remember, correct?
Correct.
And you've responded to overdoses, correct?
Yes.
Probably a lot, correct?
Yes.
Especially with the pandemic of fentanyl and fake Percocet, correct?
Yes, sir.
And a lot of those kind of cases have crushed pills, correct?
Not from what I've seen.
What have you seen
Excuse me.
regarding crushed fentanyl?
Well, I have typically seen at most of the scenes, I've typically seen syringes and paraphernalia different than, such as in this case where there's a plate with numerous what appear to be crushed pills on it.
So in the cases where you've seen syringes, the syringes were still on the scene?
Typically, yes.
Were there syringes with tourniquets?
At times.
Were they still on the scene?
At times.
Were they usually around the body?
Yes.
That's typical where the paraphernalia for the way describing the tourniquet and the syringe are usually near the body, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you, according to your reports, you arrived on the scene at 5:20. You wouldn't argue with that, would you?
No.
And it's 5:20 p.m., correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you arrived on the scene, those other deputies depicted in exhibit number 23 were on the scene already?
Yes, sir.
And they all were talking with Jessy, correct?
Correct.
Did you speak with her at all?
Not that I recall.
And those deputies on the scene, who were they?
I recall Deputy Rosenberger and Mitch and Jacoby.
And did they speak with anybody else in that neighborhood?
Not that I'm aware of.
They didn't speak with any neighbors, as far as you know?
I'm not certain if they did or not.
Your job was mainly to take photographs?
Correct.
And you took photographs of things you thought were relevant?
More so of the overall residence, interior and exterior.
So you weren't taking pictures or photographs of things you thought were relevant, just flashing pictures in different rooms of whatever you saw?
Well, I would say the entire interior of the residence where the decedent is relevant. I mean, that's where the person is located. I would say as far as the exterior photos, the relevancy I see there is that there's documentation that there's no signs of forced entry or a struggle or anything that could be an obvious contributing factor of death at that point.
Well, you arrived on the scene. Did the deputies tell you that there could have been forced entry?
No.
They told you it was a suicide, correct?
I believe at the time they told me they suspected that it was, yes, and that the fire department had pronounced the patient deceased, and that was really my extent of the conversation with them.
I didn't see fire department personnel depicted in exhibit number 23. Had they already left?
From what I recall, yes.
I'm going to show you some defense exhibits, and just want you to identify them first. So, officer, this has been identified as exhibit number 23 by the state. The vehicle on the right parked in front of the garage, do you know whose vehicle that is?
I believe at the time I was informed that that was Ms. Kurcewski's.
And this is exhibit number 24. Again, you took this photograph?
Yes, sir.
And in that photograph, you're standing where in the residence?
Just inside of the main entryway.
And it depicts the kitchen in the far end, correct?
Yes.
Did you search that area at all yourself?
I'm sorry,
Did you search that area at all?
search the kitchen?
Correct.
No.
Do you know if any of the deputies on scene searched that area?
No.
There was no need to search it?
In my opinion, at that time, there was not. I mean, I conducted a plain view search of the main area, but not further search.
In that exhibit where I'm pointing to, that's a garbage can, correct?
Looks like it, yes.
Did you look in the garbage can at all?
No,
Do you know if any of the deputies on scene looked in there?
I do not know.
It was testified before by the deputy medical examiner that there was
Your Honor, your side.
what's already been testified to yesterday.
You can ask the question overruled. As long as he accurately states what the testimony was.
The deputy medical examiner yesterday, Ms. Kukas, indicated there was alcohol in that garbage can. Did she tell you that there was alcohol in that garbage can?
I don't remember meeting with the deputy medical examiner at all. I believe I was gone prior to her arrival.
Did you at all, or any of the deputies at all, search the kitchen area for like documents.
When you say search, are you referring to like drawers and things? I'm sorry, to what extent search are you asking for?
Well, look on the counter, look through the kitchen shelves, the drawers.
There was there was certainly a visual search. Any plain view search was conducted.
You didn't open drawers and things like that, did you?
No.
You didn't search that area for like eye drops or anything like that, did you?
No.
Were you told to look for eye drops?
No.
And told to look for Visine bottles?
No.
Well, I'm showing you is exhibit number 25. Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes.
Is that a photograph that you took?
Yes.
And what does exhibit number 25 depict?
The decedent and the surrounding area.
And the decedent was identified as Lynn Hernan,
Yes, sir.
correct? And were you told on the scene what relationship she was to the person depicted in exhibit number 23, Jessy?
I believe one of the deputies mentioned that they learned that Miss Kurcewski was a caretaker for Miss Hernan, and that's why she was on the scene.
And depicted to the right of Miss Hernan, but to the left of the people viewing the photograph, items to her right are what? Did you find?
Pill bottles?
These here are the pill bottles?
Yes, sir.
What's this depicted on the scene?
Appears to be a water bottle.
Do you know if that water bottle was full or empty?
I do not know.
Did you at all examine that water bottle?
No.
Did you open up and smell inside of it?
No.
Over to Ms. Kurcewski's, over to Ms. Hernan's left, and people looking at the photograph are right. What are the things on the table?
Appears to be a TV remote, ashtray with a cigarette. There's some pill bottles. Another bottle, I'm not certain what's in there, and then a roll of toilet paper. And some paperwork, documents as well.
You see this item here behind the pill bottles?
Yes, sir.
That appears to be a bottle of eye drops.
I have no idea what that is.
There seems to be a love seat directly in front of Miss Hernan to her left. Would you agree?
Yes, sir.
And there appears to be stuff stuffed under there, correct?
Yeah.
Did you look under there to see what was under there?
No.
Did you look? So you didn't look at all under there?
No.
Do you know if any of the deputies did?
No.
Over to the right of Miss Hernan by her legs are documents, correct?
Yes.
Did you go through those documents?
I viewed the document that was facing outermost document, I should say. Outermost document, I did, yes.
You didn't go page through those, did you?
No.
Did any deputies page through those?
Don't know.
Had there been items in there, information on there on writing pad?
Yes.
So you did find stuff in there on writing pads?
Right in the front, yes. Immediately in the front.
Did you look further into those documents to see if there was more things written on writing pads?
I don't remember going through the entire stack. I remember viewing a couple of things in the front and photographing a few, and that was it.
Ultimately, did you find any identification information to Ms. Hernan?
Yes.
Where did you find that?
I believe that was on the paperwork that is to her right or our left. Excuse me, there were numerous documents in there that had her name on it.
Did you find any like wallet or purse or driver's license?
I don't recall specifically.
Did you at all So in that area, you didn't remember finding her purse or wallet?
I don't recall specifically, no.
Do you remember searching the bedroom and finding her purse in the bedroom?
I remember going into the bedroom to view it. I don't recall specifically what was in there, sir.
Eventually, you took a photo of for Miss Hernan's driver's license, correct?
Yes.
Where did you find that?
I don't recall. I don't know if a deputy gave it to me. I'm not certain.
Her screen went black.
Yep, I turned it off because the testimony was not about that photograph anymore.
Understood.
I'll keep the up for you all, so if you need to see what you're doing, but.
I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 26. I'm not sure if this has been entered into evidence yet.
Yes, it has. Go ahead, you can publish.
And that's a close-up of Miss Hernan?
Yes, sir.
And that's, when you're referring to the crushed pills, that's what you're referring
Please
to?
turn it.
Yes, sir.
Did you take any samples of those crushed pills?
No.
Do you know if any of the deputies grabbed any samples at all and tested it on the scene?
I don't believe they did, no.
And around Miss Hernan's neck is a chain?
Yes.
Do you know what's attached to that chain?
No.
Do you remember seeing dog tags attached to that chain?
No.
No. Again, this is a close-up of the other photographs I've shown you, which depict pill bottles on one of the tables next to Miss Hernan, correct?
Yes.
That was the table to her right, correct?
Yes, sir.
And down at the bottom were her documents that you indicated previously, they had her identification information?
Yes.
And you said you kind of went through those partially?
Partially.
And you saw some notebooks in there with written items on it, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't look through all of them, did you?
No.
There could have been more notebooks in there that you just didn't look at, correct?
Sure. Yes.
Do you recall what this document is here that I'm pointing to on the screen?
I believe it was a will of some sort.
I'm showing you it's marked as exhibit number 28. Does that appear to be the will that you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
And according to that document, it's dated, at least there's the dates of April 20, 2018, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you see Ms. Hernan's name on it, correct?
Correct.
And you see Ms. Kurcewski's name on it, correct?
Correct.
And there seems to be a BMO Harris bank employee listed at the bottom, correct?
Yes.
And if you cannot read it, it seems to be bank employee Maria Cecilia, spelled C-E-C-E-I-L-I-A, Benaventes? You want me to zoom it?
It's just hard to tell with the penmanship, sir.
Can you see her date, her stamp up here?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes, I'm sorry.
And that's spelled B-E-N-A-V-E-N-T-E?
Yes, sir.
So it seems to me like this document was taken to the BMO Harris Bank to be notarized, correct?
I assume so. It appears to be, yes. Appears to be.
I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 29. Did you take that photograph?
Yes, sir.
And again, it depicts the table to Ms. Hernan's left, correct?
Correct.
And there appears to be pill bottles here, correct?
Yes, sir.
And again, this bottle here, it seems to be eye drops, correct?
I have no idea what that is, sir.
You never took a photograph of that, correct?
I'm sorry, of the,
Of this bottle right here depicted on the table.
no.
Do you know if any of the deputies on the scene or anyone ever recovered that bottle?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did you find any liquor bottles around Miss Hernan?
Not that I recall.
Did you find any like cups or water bottles that contained any kind of alcohol in
Not that I recall.
it? Again, I'm showing you exhibit number 31. Again, state exhibit number 31. You took that photograph, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that appears to be the backside of where Miss Hernan was sitting?
Correct.
And again, it depicts the pills on the table, correct?
Yes.
Toilet paper, correct?
Correct.
And again, the same eye drop bottle, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, that's not testimony.
Well, this bottle, I'll rephrase the question, Judge.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, it depicts this bottle, but from a different angle, correct?
Correct.
There seems to be a prescription bottle that's spilled on the ground.
Correct.
And again, the plate was crushed, some kind of crushed item, correct?
Yes.
And as on the scene, you don't know what that is, correct?
No.
It wasn't tested on the scene, correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
Teresa.
I'm showing you what's marked as State's Exhibit number 32. You took that photograph, correct?
Yes.
And that appears to depict the kitchen, correct?
Correct.
That it only appears to depict half of the kitchen, correct?
Correct.
You didn't take a picture of the whole kitchen, correct?
From that vantage point,
Correct, for any vantage point.
I believe it can be seen in the background of other photos, but I don't recall specifically.
Close-ups?
I don't recall any other close-ups other than this kitchen island.
So what was the purpose of taking exhibit number 32?
I would say two purposes. One, to show the items that are on the countertop, and two, again, is to get also an overall view of the residence itself and kind of assist in giving people a perception of exactly where things are and an overall view so that you can see that there's no apparent signs of struggle or forced entry or any other contributing factor that's obvious.
Right, again, as you stated at the beginning and throughout your testimony, everyone on the scene assumed this was suicide, correct?
Yes.
A suicide by prescription pills, correct?
Yes.
Overruled.
And that was the reason why you were taking photographs of all the prescription pills located within the residence, correct?
I would either way, usually.
Oh, good. Again, as to this defense exhibit 543, page 1, you took this photograph, correct?
I don't recall specifically taking it. I would presume because I don't remember anyone else taking photos there.
But you don't remember where you got that from?
No.
As far as the driver's license?
No.
Again, the driver's license seems to indicate that Ms. Hernan was issued this license on June 21st, 2018.
Yes, sir.
By looking at this license, you can't tell where she went to get that license, do you? What DMV?
No.
You done with 543?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Judge. I'm showing you what's called, is it defense exhibit number 5. Do
It's 543, page 5.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Judge. Do you remember taking that photograph?
No.
That it appears to depict Miss Hernan's neck in the background, correct, with the crutch pills?
Yes.
If that was in your inventory as one of the photographs you took, would you agree that you took that photograph?
Yes.
And you indicated that you've come across a lot of deaths, correct? Death
Yes.
scenes, correct?
Yes.
How many death scenes that you come across where you've seen dog tags around the person's neck?
No idea.
Hundreds?
No. Specifically where they're wearing dog
Correct.
tags? I couldn't tell you.
Does this appear to be the first?
I don't know.
Well, do you remember seeing dog tags around other people that you've seen deceased other than this Miss Hernan?
Screens aren't showing.
Not specifically. I'm sorry. I don't recall specifically how many.
Can you show the screen to this witness?
The witness has it. Do you want it
Can you,
published?
yes, Judge.
Go ahead.
And the dog tags appear to have the chain itself appears to have a female ring attached to it, correct?
I see a ring. I can't say for certain if it's a female ring.
Teresa down.
Oh.
Please be careful.
Yeah, just a mess of money. I'm showing you what's marked as defense exhibit 543, page 6. That appears to be a close-up of the dog tags, correct?
Yes.
And it appears to identify the owner of the dog tags, correct?
Yes.
And it states Robert Wallace Hernan, correct?
Correct.
I'm showing you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 543, page 9. Did you take that photograph?
Yes.
It appears to show the 5 prescription bottles that were located on the table to Miss Hernan's left, correct?
Correct.
And that bottle that we're not sure if it's eye drops is not on the table, correct?
I can't tell based on that angle.
To the left of that photograph, or to the right of prescription bottles, there appears to be an ashtray, correct?
Correct.
And in that ashtray is a cigarette?
I believe so.
It
It appears to be.
There appears to be lipstick at the end of that cigarette?
I guess it could be, sure. And there's some coloring, certainly.
Can you tell by looking at that photograph whether or not that cigarette was lit from the correct end?
I
can't tell.
It's hard. I'm sorry.
I don't want you to guess.
No, I'm sorry. I can't tell if that's a filter side or if it's the tobacco side. I'm sorry.
I'm going to show you the next exhibit.
From this exhibit or different?
From this same set of exhibits, Judge.
Thank you.
I'm showing you it's marked as Defense Exhibit number 543, page 13. Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes.
Did you take a photograph of that exhibit?
Yes.
What does it depict?
A plate which appears to have powdery substance on it.
And then on the ground there appears to be, again, a prescription bottle
Yes.
and some crumbs and pills.
Yes.
I'm going to show you.
Different exhibit?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, Madam Clerk, thank you.
I'm showing you Defense Exhibit 543, page 15. You took that photograph?
I don't recall specifically.
Well, it's depicts scene photographs. It was labeled on the photographs you took.
Okay.
What was the significance of taking that photograph?
I don't recall taking that photograph. So
Yeah.
it's hard for me to say.
There appears to be some, like, stool in the bathroom toilet, correct?
There's something in the toilet.
Based upon your life's experience, did it appear that somebody had used that toilet and didn't flush it?
I see something deposited into the toilet. I don't.
I'm showing you what's my Defense Exhibit number 543, page 19. You remember taking that photograph?
Not specifically, no.
So when you were getting prepared for this, your testimony today, the state didn't show you all the photographs that you took on the scene?
I don't recall viewing this, either taking this photo or viewing it prior to my testimony.
The photograph appears to depict a checkbook page,
Yes.
and it has a number of names on the page, correct?
Correct.
Label number 1 is Jessy Kurcewski.
Yes.
And it says, right above her name, daughter, always.
Yes.
And below her name it says, like, on Living Will Healthcare.
Correct.
And secondly, on that exhibit to the left of Jessy is the name of Jennifer Flower.
Jenny Flowers.
Jenny Flower. As you been doing your investigation in this case, you learned that Jenny Flower is Jessy's mother, correct?
Correct. I'm
showing you what's marked as Defense Exhibit 543, page 20. Do you remember taking that photograph?
No.
But if it was in your photographs listed, scene photographs, you would have taken that photograph, correct?
Yes.
Because you were the only one for the Sheriff's Department taking photographs?
That I recall, yes.
And on this exhibit at the bottom, it says physician certification, correct?
Yes.
And it says, I certified that Lynn Hernan, printed name. What does the rest of that say, if you can read it?
Has a medical or genetic condition that requires access to medical or genetic information regarding his or her birth family.
And the top of that paragraph kind of explains what the purpose of the reason that Ms. Hernan's name is on that exhibit, correct?
Yes.
And it says State of Wisconsin Department of Health and Social Services, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what does it state after that?
The Department of Health and Social
Your Honor, I'm not sure how any of this is relevant.
I'll overrule it. The exhibit has been received. Go ahead.
The Department of Health and Social Services has been authorized to conduct a search for medical and genetic information concerning birth parents and certain relatives of adoptees and other persons whose birth parents have had parental rights terminated.
I'm showing you exhibit. This has been previously identified as Stakes Exhibit number 1, but also Defense Exhibit number 543, number 2.
21.
21.
21.
Thank you, Judge. You don't remember taking that photograph, I take it.
That I do recall.
And do you remember where you recovered that?
I believe that was, in the same collapsing file folder that had the living will right in front of it. So I recall this being the second or third, somewhere in the front of those documents.
That was in that area by where Ms. Hernan was located?
Yes, sir.
And you indicated there were other notepads full of writing on it, correct?
Correct.
But you didn't take those notepads, did you?
No.
And all this stuff you didn't recover, did you?
No.
You left it all on the scene?
As far as being in sheriff's custody, I'm sorry.
Correct.
Correct. It was left there.
Why wasn't it taken from the scene?
The opinion or the speculation at the time on law enforcement's behalf was that this was clearly a suicide. And so at that point, having that opinion or having that those observations, there would be no criminal element to us to further identify, and therefore if things are not of evidentiary value, there's no reason for us to take them.
And it seems on the exhibit, it's information, if written by Ms. Hernan, telling people what to do if she's not around, correct?
The context of the letter certainly is. I can't say for certain if it's Ms. Hernan who authored it.
Right, whoever wrote that, those things on that notepad seems to be giving people directions as to what to do when if they're not around, correct?
Yes.
Right, the top of the photograph seems to have written, being of sound mind and body on this date, correct?
Yes.
And it's highlighted Jenny's sorry flower, correct?
Yes.
In previous documents, we've seem to have identified Jenny as being, Jenny Flower as Jesse's mother, correct?
Yes.
And at the top of that document, it appears to be talking about something with cats. Bathroom, keep full, it's the cats.
Correct.
Again, you saw a cat on the scene?
Yes.
Did you seek also cat litter?
I don't recall specifically.
The residence itself was pretty clean, would you say?
Yes.
It was, if Miss Hernan wasn't keeping it clean, someone was keeping the residence clean for her, correct?
Yes, it appears so, yes.
I'm showing you it's marked exhibit number, exhibit number 5, defense exhibit number 543, page 22 seems to be a closer look at that exhibit number 21, correct?
Yes.
Again, it seems to be giving so many directions if Ms. Hernan's not around, correct?
Yes.
If she was the author of this exhibit.
Yes.
I'm showing you it's marked as defense exhibit 543, page 23. It seems to be more writing of the same person who wrote the other exhibits, correct?
Yes.
Because it seems to suggest Ms. Hernan wrote that exhibit, correct? Her name's on it.
It does.
Again, it appears the exhibit to have, again, more direction for someone to look at in case she's not around.
Correct.
Seems to have individuals' names on it, correct, with telephone numbers?
Yes.
And to the left of those names, there seems to be some writing. They don't need to come over here, correct?
Correct.
And right below that item, it's something circle and says Jennifer if I don't make it, correct?
Correct.
And farther down on that exhibit, it says, if something happens, basically, Jennifer, you get the Jeep, the 2014 Jeep. Patriot is yours, title is in the visor, correct?
Yes.
Would you agree there was a lot of other documents on the scene or around Ms. Hernan that you observed but didn't take photos of?
Yes.
And did you ever check the bedroom for similar documents?
Not that I recall.
Did you ever search Ms. Hernan's vehicle to see if there's any documents inside the vehicle?
No.
I'm showing you what's identified as defense exhibit number 503. I don't want to publish this to the jury at all. I'm going to show you a number of exhibits: 503, 504, 506, 507, 508. Can you look at exhibit number 503, please?
Give me a moment. It should be up momentarily.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Sorry.
My fault. Can you see item number 503?
Yes.
And it's a 2-page item, correct?
Correct.
And as, again, you indicated that you didn't look at all the documents that were located next to Ms. Hernan, correct?
Correct.
And there were a lot of documents with handwriting on it on notebooks, correct?
From what I could see, yes. I mean, I didn't closely look through all of them. But I would say there were some there that certainly had handwriting on them that I didn't view.
And again, you testified the Sheriff's Department didn't recover any of the documents on the scene, correct?
No.
So
I'm
you
sorry,
don't,
correct. I don't recall taking any, yes.
so you don't know at all whether or not exhibit number 503 was located with the other items that you took photographs of, correct?
I don't know if it was or not.
It could have been there, but you just can't tell us whether it was or was not, correct?
Correct.
I'm showing you it's marked as 504, item number 504, defense exhibit number 504. Do you have it on your screen yet?
Yes.
Okay. It seems to be, again, writing on a notepad,
Yes.
2 pages.
Yes, sir.
And again, similar to my previous exhibit, you don't know whether or not item number 504 was mixed in with these other documents that were next to Ms. Hernan, correct?
That's correct. I do not know.
It could have been there, you just didn't note them, correct?
Correct.
I'm showing you it's marked as defense exhibit number 505. I'll strike that. Defense exhibit number 506. Okay,
Yes, sir.
sorry.
Yep.
Again, it seems to be some writing on a notepad, correct?
Correct.
And there appears to be, it's a long exhibit, like there's 29 pages here in this exhibit, and writing on each page, correct, on a notepad, correct?
From what I'm seeing so far, yes.
And again, item number 506, it could have been with these other documents that were there that you didn't note, correct?
Sure. Could have been, yes.
I'm showing you it's marked as defense exhibit number 507. Do you have it on your screen?
Yes, sir.
Again, it seems to be writing on a notepad.
Correct.
And similar to my previous exhibits, that could have been with the other documents that were there next to Ms. Hernan, but you just didn't notice them, correct?
That's correct.
Again, writing on a notepad, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm showing you it's marked as exhibit number 508. Do you see it?
Yes.
Again, it appears to be writing on a notepad, correct?
Yes, sir.
And similar to my other exhibits, it could have been there with the other documents, but you just didn't notice them, correct?
Correct.
She had a lot of documents next to her, correct?
Correct.
Some were medical, correct?
I don't recall for certain what was in there. I mean, I recall the will document, and I recall the pages of the notepad that we viewed prior to these exhibits specifically. Outside of that, I can't say for certain what nature the documents were.
And again, as you sit there today in front of this jury, you can't say whether or not the owner of this residence, Ms. Hernan, had documents in other parts of her house, correct?
Can't say for certain.
Correct.
Correct. I cannot say for certain.
If she had documents in her bedroom, correct?
Correct.
Documents in the dresser drawer in her bedroom, correct?
Correct.
Documents under the couch in the room that she was located in, correct?
Correct.
Because she did have items stuffed underneath the love seat, correct?
I don't know that for certain.
I mean, you saw that in one of the exhibits where she had things stuffed underneath the love seat, correct?
Yes, sir. That part I did see.
As far as you know, there could have been additional documents and stuff underneath there, correct?
Correct.
Because you didn't look.
Correct.
Similar to the couch that was opposite of that love seat, there could have been items or documents under there, but you don't know because you didn't look, correct?
Correct.
Almost done. Detective, bear with me. I'm going to show you what's marked as Defense Exhibit 543, page 26. Do you see that exhibit?
Yes, sir.
It seems to be a medical document, correct?
Yes, sir.
It at the top of it has kind of like dates on it already, correct?
Yes.
It seems to depict September 15, 2018, correct?
Correct.
Do you want this published or just questioning him on it right now?
Publishment, Your Honor, thank you. It seems to be, again, a hospital document or a medical document, correct?
Correct.
It's dated September 15, 2018, correct?
Correct.
Time 1700, and you know what that seems to suggest, 5 p.m.?
Correct.
It talks about items that the patient, or items that they're referring to, jewelry, ring, necklace, bracelet, correct?
Correct.
Bracelet, 4 rings, correct?
Correct.
Filed on September 15, 2018 at 1700, correct?
Correct.
It says pants, shirts, footwear, filed, again, same date, September 15, 2018, correct?
Correct.
Clothing, strike that other things, purse, wallet, credit cards, correct?
Correct.
It says keys, cane, correct?
Correct.
Cane spelled C-A-N-E, correct?
Yes, sir.
Again, dated September 15th, 2018 at 5 p.m., correct?
Correct.
So whoever this is referring to has a wallet and credit cards with them, correct?
Yes.
I didn't see it, but at the top of the document, apparently it refers to a Hernan Lynn A, correct?
Correct.
And underneath it, it says patient, correct?
Correct.
I'm showing you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 543, page 27. At top of that exhibit, it says Pro Healthcare, correct?
Correct.
Again, is the name of Lynn Hernan, correct?
Correct.
It's dated at the beginning of September 15, 2018, correct?
Correct.
And there's a discharge of September 28, 2018, correct?
Correct.
It also talks about the providers seen during the hospitalization, correct?
I'm sorry?
It also labels the doctors that Ms. Hernan saw while she was at the hospital, correct?
Yes, sir.
And one of the doctors is a psychiatrist?
Yes.
And the doctor above that psychiatrist is a doctor labeled palliative care?
Palliative care, I believe it's pronounced?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Let me zoom it in a little bit more so I can read it. And it talks about why Ms. Hernan was hospitalized.
Correct. Correct.
I know you're not a doctor, so I don't want you to go through those items unless you can.
No.
No, okay. Fair enough. And there appears to be some writing on that document from somebody, correct?
Correct.
I mean, you don't know if Ms. Hernan wrote that on, put that writing on that document, do you?
No.
And you took a photograph of this. It's listed under the photographs that you took. Do you remember taking it?
No.
I'm showing you it's marked as Defense Exhibit 543, page 28. Again, it's labeled for Ms. Hernan, correct? At the
Yes.
top?
Yes.
And it talks about the number of, do you know what these words, says nifedipine, these other words I can't even pronounce, but at the bottom alprazolam, do you know what those are?
No. I mean, it appears to be medication because it says it's a medication list, but I don't know anything about those or what they are.
Again, there appears to be some writing to the right of that, correct? Like somebody wrote on those documents,
Correct.
or that document in particular.
Correct.
I mean, you don't know if Ms. Hernan wrote that on there or someone else, correct?
Correct.
And I'm showing you Stat Vest Exhibit number 543, page 29. Do you see page 29 in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Again, it gets directed to patient Hernan Lynn A, correct?
Correct.
And again, it appears to be more medication, correct?
Yes. Correct.
And again, someone is writing to the right of those prescriptions, correct?
Correct.
Like it's at the top, it says it appears to be do not substitute.
Correct.
And over here, it's highlighted stop taking, correct?
Correct.
And then to the right of that, there's some writing, my BOP stop taking September 28th, or 9/28, correct?
Correct.
I mean, it seems to suggest my blood pressure stopped taking, correct? Oh, you don't know.
I'm not certain what BP would stand for in this case.
And then it talks about follow-up information, correct?
Correct.
And it seems to indicate that Ms. Hernan is supposed to have a follow-up examination with Dr. Abdullah, correct, on Thursday, October 4th.
Correct.
And it says contact the clinic to reschedule if you're unable to attend, correct?
Correct.
Again, there's more writing. If you are discharged to rehab, appointment will be canceled, correct?
Correct.
And directing you to the bottom, it says referral details. Do you see that?
Yes.
And directly to the right of that document at the bottom, it says type, it says home health care, correct?
Correct.
And one of the last documents I'm directing you to is defense item number 543, and I have it labeled as defense item number, page number 3. Showing you it's marked as defense exhibit number 543, page 30. Do you have it in front of you?
Yes, sir.
It's on the screen.
Thank you, Judge. Again, this refers to Hernan Lynn A, correct?
Correct.
And where it talks about special instructions optional, do you see where I'm pointing to?
Yes, sir.
It says patient's friend Jessy is her caregiver, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it has her telephone number, correct?
I would assume that's her telephone number. I don't know for certain.
And above that, special instructions, it says reasons for home care, correct?
Yes.
And could you read that to the jury? Why? What does it state on that document?
Recent 2-week hospitalization for abdominal pain with nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, and setting of 4-year history of inability to tolerate full meals and foods, treated for CDIFF and electrolyte imbalances, deconditioned from baseline. You want me to continue? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Detective, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Any redirect? Sorry.
Yes, Your Honor.
How long do you think you have? I may take a break.
I would say probably 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, let's take a break then.
I apologize. We're trying to pull up one of their exhibits, 543.
Do you need preview on right now for yourself so you can see
Please.
it? All right. There you go. Let me know if you want it on for the witness then too.
I will, thank you. Detective, do you have anything up on your screen right now?
No, sir.
Okay.
I
Excuse me.
just clicked it.
Thank you.
It's up now.
Thank you.
And then let
Detective,
me know if you want it published.
I will, thank you. Detective, we're looking at Exhibit 543, page 19. Do you recall being shown this exhibit earlier?
Yes.
Okay, and actually, Your Honor, I would ask that this be published, please. On page 19, is there an individual noted as Corrine Posa?
Yes.
Is there a arrow pointing to her name that talks about a living will in healthcare?
Yes.
Now we're looking at page 20 of Exhibit 543 as well. Again, you were shown this picture previously.
Yes, sir.
This was a picture that talks about the Department of Health and Social Services, correct?
Correct.
On the bottom of that, I don't know if it's easy for you to see or not, is there talk about an expiration date on the bottom?
There is.
What is that date?
November 1st, 1997.
Okay. And additionally, on the top left, can you give me the date on the top left?
It's hard to see, sir.
Okay. We're going to try to zoom in for you
Please.
to help that out.
October 1985.
Okay. And then as well, on that same sheet, the fourth line down, does it talk about laws of 1981?
Yes.
Given all of that information, would it be fair to say that that document was older?
Objection, speculation.
Overruled. He may answer.
Yes.
And then if we could go to page 18 of that one as well. On page 18, I believe you were shown this exhibit as well, correct?
Yes.
Can you please read to the jury the fourth paragraph?
Rest of name, dates, etc. to remain the same on living will and will, both originals and lockbox number 514, BMO Harris Bank, 1580 East Moreland Boulevard, Waukesha, Wisconsin 53186. Advisor Mr. Diaz 262-544-8780.
Okay, thank you. We can take that down, thank you.
I'll leave preview up so that you all can see, and then let me know if it needs to go to the witness or to be published.
When we get it pulled up, I'm going to be showing you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 1. And I believe you were actually shown a portion of this exhibit as part of 543 as part of the notepad that would have been taken on this October 3rd date. As part of Exhibit 1, towards the middle or towards the bottom, is there discussion about a hospital?
Yes.
Can you discuss the contents of that hospital discussion?
It appears to notate a phone number which can be utilized to reach a scheduling desk at the hospital. And then there's reference to they, which then in parentheses has hospital, which appears to designate who they is, referring to if that facility needs an original living will and where it can be located.
Okay.
It also lists Corrine on this page as well with a phone number.
On top of Exhibit 1, if we could just zoom in towards the top a little bit.
Do you want this published?
I don't.
Okay.
This doesn't need to be published. Thank you, though. On top of Exhibit 1 is the date 9/26/2015.
Yes.
Again, you found that notepad in the collapsible area near Ms. Hernan, correct?
Correct.
Ultimately, a picture of that notepad was taken on a stool, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Detective Loberg, you were shown a lot of scene photos, and there was questioning of whether or not you actually took those photos. Do you recall that?
Correct.
Okay. Your Honor, can we take this off preview briefly? Thank you. You took several scene photos on this date that were not published or moved into the exhibit, correct?
Correct.
In a minute, we're going to pull up all of those photos to help refresh your recollection, okay?
Okay.
Can we pull up preview, please?
Preview for just you or for the witness as well?
For the witness as well, please. Thank you.
We'll take a minute. Detective, just let us know when it's up.
And just for the record, Your Honor, because this is used to refresh his recollection, we don't have this marked as an exhibit right now, but we will be getting that in a PowerPoint form.
All right, do you know how many pages?
There are 23. Yeah.
23 pages or photos?
Correct. Can you see anything on your screen yet?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What are we looking at in this first page?
So this is a what we refer to as an evidence card, which is an in-house document utilized to notate that any picture subsequent to this is associated to this particular case number and investigation.
Okay. Did you take roughly 36 photographs on this date?
I would say that's probably accurate.
Okay. Looking at this photo right now, I believe that's already been moved in as an exhibit, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This third page of this, you took this photo, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just to make this more efficiently so I don't have to ask you these same monotonous questions and to save the jury, I'm just going to have this actually end up being scrolled through, and then we're just going to make sure that these are all photos that you took.
Okay.
All right, Detective, have you had a chance to review all those photos?
Yes, sir.
Does that help refresh your recollection of photos that you would have taken on this date?
Yes.
Perfect. You were questioned about some of the photos, again, by Attorney Galaviz previously about some photos that were taken that you didn't recall. Do you remember that?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to have... Can you go to page 1, please, and publish this to the jury?
Unfortunately, that delay will always be there for the jury box. I know there's the 2 monitors you all can see, but just give me a thumbs up when, all right, lots of thumbs up. Go ahead.
So first page on Exhibit 543, was that a picture that you had taken in that refresh recollection?
No.
Okay. Can we go to...
I wanted to not
Yep, I appreciate that.
show that
Thank
since
you.
it was scrolling through.
Thank you.
Let me know when you're on the one you want.
We're ready, thank you.
Next time you're going to scroll, give me a heads up so I need to stop the publish.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
This is Exhibit 543, page 5. Is this picture part of the photos that you had previously taken as part of that refresh memory?
No.
Okay, page 6. Apologize, that was not the right one.
That's not the one you wanted, right?
I
All right.
apologize. We can publish this now. Again, same question. Is this part of a picture that you would have taken on this date?
No.
All right, can you take that off, please? And then we're going to turn to page 15 of 543. And that can be published. Same questions, Detective. Is this picture one of the pictures that you had taken previously?
No.
All right, that can be taken off, please. And then moving to page 19 of 543. This is page 19 of Exhibit 543. Was that a picture that you had taken?
No.
Moving to page 20. Same questions, is that a picture that you took?
No.
Moving to page 21. Again, you talked about this notepad, but was that notepad part of the series of photos that you reviewed earlier to refresh your recollection?
No.
Same thing with page 22. Did you take this photograph?
No.
Page 23. Did you take that photograph?
No.
Then we can pull it down briefly. Moving on to page 26. Page 26 of 543, did you take this photograph?
No.
Moving to 27.
No.
Again, did you take this photograph?
No.
28. Did you take that picture?
No.
29. Did you take that picture?
No.
And lastly, 30. Did you take that picture?
No.
So when Attorney Galaviz was telling you that these photos were part of the scene photos and ones that you had taken, would that be correct?
No.
Okay. When you were on scene in your investigation, was a suicide note ever found?
No.
If there was one found, would you have taken it?
Absolutely.
In your training and experience in your lengthy time as a detective, is it normal for suicide notes to be easily findable?
Judge, I want to object as to what is normal when it comes to suicide.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
Again, in your training and experience and going to death scenes and suicides before, are suicide notes easily findable?
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, I believe in interviews that we typically may conduct either at the scene or later on, there seems that some people who commit that act have some sort of remorse as well, or the desire to let someone else know why they had the motivation to do what they did. And so typically it has been my experience that if those notes are present, they are within the absolute immediate area of the actual decedent.
Was that the case here?
No.
Ultimately, we've talked a lot in your testimony here about how initially this appeared to be a suicide, correct?
Yes, sir.
So can you talk about the reasons here that initially why it appeared that it was a suicide as opposed to a homicide?
So the initial information that I was told that some of the deputies received kind of, I guess, led them to that conclusion. And that would have been based on the information that they gathered from Ms. Kurcewski when they interviewed her. The other thing is that the manner in which the patient was lying with what appeared to be crushed medications present on her person, the lack of any signs of forced entry, the lack of any signs of or indications of a struggle, the lack of obvious signs of any trauma to the body. There just was no indication whatsoever, in my opinion, looking at it from a criminal aspect, that there was any obvious element at that time. And so that dictates the means in which that scene is processed.
While you're talking about the crushed pills as part of that answer, do you know when those pills got there?
No.
Do you know how they got crushed?
No.
Okay. And additionally, does documenting a scene differ when you're processing it as a homicide versus a suicide?
Absolutely.
Does that change the way you collect evidence
Absolutely.
in terms of photographs or collecting garbage per se?
Absolutely.
Ultimately, though, I believe we talked originally on direct examination, though. Through further follow-up, did this investigation turn from a suicide investigation to a homicide investigation?
Yes.
Thank you, Detective. I don't have anything else.
All right.
Questions, Judge?
Go ahead. Based on the limited.
Correct.
Direct. Go ahead.
So the photos I showed you a little while ago that I got from the DA's office, I got them from you. If you didn't take them, who was taking them?
There would have been deputies on scene that would have had the ability to, but I'm not certain.
So it's either you or other deputies on the scene that took these photos.
I would assume so.
Because the deputy medical examiner testified yesterday that 543, Defense Exhibit 543, page 1, was the photograph of Lynn Hernan's driver's license that she got from a deputy. That photograph. That she didn't take it.
Objection, or I don't recall that being her testimony. I believe she admitted that she actually took that photograph.
Sustain this to the form of the question. Please rephrase.
So, you know, the deputy medical examiner was taking photos, correct?
I presume so. They
You-
usually do.
You were taking photographs, correct?
Yes.
And apparently other deputies on the scene were taking photographs, correct?
I don't know.
Well, a lot of these most all these photographs I showed you were photographs taken on the scene, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't see me on the scene, correct?
No.
And you said you didn't see any trauma to Miss Hernan, correct?
Correct.
You didn't see any trauma to her neck, correct?
Correct.
Any trauma to her mouth, correct?
I believe there was some minor bleeding, but otherwise, no.
So you saw bleeding in her mouth.
I believe there was.
You verified that was bleeding in her mouth.
With seeing blood visible? Visible on her mouth, I should
Yeah,
say.
you verified that was blood in her mouth.
Objection, Your Honor. I think this is getting outside the scope of redirect.
It is. Sustained. Move on.
Well, let's talk about these suicide scenes. How many of suicide scenes have you been to?
Couldn't say. A lot.
100?
Sure.
And of those 100, how many were prescription drug suicides?
Well, typically, let me word it this way. That's a determination made by the medical examiner. And so if I have no further investigation into the matter, I may not receive a final disposition. I may suspect or have a professional opinion as to a cause, but I may not always know for every single death investigation what the final cause of death was.
Well, when you got on the scene where you suspected it was a prescription drug suicide, how many were those?
I don't know.
1?
No.
5? 10? What's the number?
$100? I don't know. I don't know.
You investigated 100 prescriptions.
Don't know. What I'm saying, sir, is that if there's a circumstance where it's the opinion of law enforcement at that time, at that scene, that there's a suicide that occurs, the investigation is done completely different from an obvious criminal matter scene. And so if there's no information gathered after the processing of that scene to indicate that there's a criminal element and it remains a suicide, for example, I may not have any further involvement in that case at that point, and therefore I'm not ultimately looking for what the final disposition is of that investigation done by the medical examiner, for example, because at that point I wouldn't have any further involvement anyways.
So you can't tell this jury how many prescription suicides you've handled?
No.
So if you handle 100 suicides in total, how many left notes?
Probably 90.
The last one that you handled, what type was it?
I don't remember. They're that frequent. I don't remember.
So they went to the medical examiner as suicides. Is that what you're telling this jury?
What I'm saying is that that ultimate determination is made by the medical examiner. I guess the maybe an easier way to explain it is that the medical examiner has different agenda or different objective, different investigation to conduct when they're there and subsequent to that, as opposed to what I have, for example. So I don't have any of the medical training or certifications to note or to, I guess arguably what a cause of death could be. And so that's why I say an obvious causation with a criminal element. If I don't have that, I'm limited on what I can do at that point. And so although the crime scene itself and the processing and the handling of the crime scene itself is extremely important, it's also not the only investigative tool. The ideal situation, law enforcement would love for every person to leave behind all kinds of evidence for us that would be traceable back to the offender, right? But that doesn't happen. And so all we can do is at that point, at that moment in time, that picture in your head.
Detective, do you remember what I just asked you?
So that's what I'm explaining is in the end, I don't, maybe I'm misunderstanding your question. I'm understanding it as how many of them turn out to be a drug-related overdose, correct?
Oh, prescription drug-related overdose.
I don't know. I don't make that determination as to what that cause of death is. So what I'm saying is if it's not a criminal investigation at that time.
Well, suicides are not criminal.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
But I'm just asking you in general.
What I'm saying, sir, is if there's no criminal element to that death investigation at that time, right then and there would be no reason for me to ultimately continue to watch that investigation as it proceeds through the medical examiner and there's a final determination of a cause of death. There would be no reason. And so there's times when if it's not ultimately determined to be a homicide, for example, industrial accident, whatever you want to use, there's no, I may not receive a final disposition as to what that death investigation, what the cause of death is, because it's not criminal in nature. So there's no reason for me to continue to follow that. And so it's hard for me to give you that number because I don't always get the disposition of what it is. I may assist. I may be the lead investigator. I don't know. It all depends.
And you can't tell this jury the last time you investigated a suicide?
No.
There are no further questions.
Is there any redirect?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. Detective, you may step down.
Thank you.
Be released from this subpoena.
Is he under a defense subpoena?
No, Judge, you may please.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.